Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. We've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon. Let's get to it. Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless. And hey, Chris Broussard is here to start Shannon out today.
Hi, how are you?
Good morning, guys.
I better step up my game sitting in this chair.
Yeah.
See, we actually have somebody sitting across from me who knows something about basketball.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah, right?
Already fired. Interesting.
But we'll see exactly how much he knows about basketball,
all right.
We'll see.
I'll give you a fist bump, just like
Just, what about, I'm the regular here.
why not?
This is a special day. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
All right.
I'm going to have a great show now. We have a lot to get to, like are LeBron and Lakers in trouble? Will the Cowboys make the playoffs with Amari Cooper? That one was for Skip. And hey, is there a Carr crybaby? But let's start with some drama in the NBA. Rajon, Rondo, and Chris Paul are currently serving suspensions for their roles in Saturday's fight. CP3 claims Rondo spit on him, but Rondo has continued to deny it. He told ESPN yesterday, "I had a mouthpiece in my mouth and I was exasperated because I was about to tell him to get the bleep out of here." Rondo followed that up by calling out CP3's character. He said, "Of course, the NBA went with his side because I got 3 games and he got 2. Everyone wants to believe Chris Paul is a good guy. They don't know he is a horrible teammate. They don't know how he treats people. Look at what he did last year when he was in LA, trying to get to the Clippers locker room. They don't want to believe he's capable of taunting and igniting an incident. He comes out and says, 'I spit,' and the media sides with that." Skip.
Jenny.
What do you believe here?
There is a whole lot going on here. But I'll start from the start by telling you, Chris Broussard, I believe that Rondo intentionally spat at Chris Paul, at him. They were little spits that did not land, but he did spit at him nonetheless. And I believe that Chris Paul, given his long history of snapping and cheap-shotting opponents, actually exercised great restraint in only trying to poke at Rondo's face in retaliation for that. Now, let me go much deeper, because I did love it and I did appreciate it that Rondo yesterday actually went after Chris Paul's pristine image, because it's the most overrated, oversold, overprotected image in the history of the NBA. Because the truth is that Chris Paul, if you really analyze his history of cheap shotting, he's the dirtiest player of his era, and I can make a case that he's the dirtiest player in the history of the NBA because of his history of cheap shotting opponents below the belt with shots to the groin. And we'll do this in just a minute. We'll go into more depth. I'm going to go through the whole montage, the litany. But as you remember, it started at Wake Forest in the ACC tournament when he took just a blatant below-the-belt shot right into the groin of Julius Hodge and got suspended for a game. And he's carried that on with a blatant attack on Marc Gasol and Kevin Durant and Chris Kaman. I can just go on and on. Just go to YouTube and you can just start looking at them, and the scope and the impact of them just knock you over. This is a dirty basketball player. And yes, I'm talking about the same guy who has starred for years in State Farm commercials where he's the good guy, and the same guy who got elected the president of the Players Association, which is mind-boggling because he does have that good off-the-court side to him. But the truth is, in the end, if you step back from this, the victim of the spitting incident should have been called out, and I'm glad that Rondo went so far as to say everyone wants to believe that Chris Paul is a good guy. Now, he just went to horrible teammate. And a lot of his Clipper teammates, starting with Big Baby Davis, who we've had on the show and has sitting in this seat right here, said that he was a horrible teammate with the Clippers. Rondo has been no angel himself. It's not that he's a bad teammate, he's just difficult to coach.
Or with coaches.
Right?
Exactly.
With coaches.
Right.
But in the end, Chris Paul, because of his twin brother Cliff Paul in the commercials, people start to think that's really Chris. And as a basketball player, that's not really Chris. And he's LeBron's, one of his closest friends. I mean, you could make a case, some people do, that he's the closest of the group to LeBron, right? You know this very well.
Yeah, I think that's a good,
okay.
That's a good possibility.
So that helps him image-wise. And then the players honored him by electing him the president of their association. Well, that's strong stuff. But Rondo, in retaliation, is calling him out for getting a pass from the media, which he does, because all of these things, all the way to the, do you remember the Marc Gasol? So it's the end of a closeout game in the playoffs, Memphis versus Clippers, and Chris Paul just snaps and takes a running start at Marc Gasol and just smashes him right in the groin, just doubles over Marc Gasol. And then he's obviously ejected. The game's over, the series is over by Joey Crawford, he's ejected. And as he walks off the court, several of the Memphis Grizzlies run, including Zach Randolph, to shake his hand. And I'm thinking, no, you should fight him. He just did that to your teammate. But again, that's the way most players see Chris Paul. And he's getting an incredible pass for this because I think Rondo's reaction to him was based on all that he's gotten away with in his career, that they're really the same kind of player. They're both undersized battlers, obviously, but they're in different packages because one can be a difficult teammate, one can be difficult to coach. So in the end, I still believe, and I don't know why Rondo won't take some ownership of little spits. There's something spittle came out of his mouth, right?
Yeah. I'm with you on a lot of that. I tend to side with Rondo more on this. And when I first saw the video before he spoke, there's clearly something that comes out of his mouth. And it looks like he kind of, his jaw, like he sets his mouth to spit.
Little spits.
But he made a convincing argument yesterday. He said, look, and I think what happened was he was talking. First, he had a mouthpiece in. So that makes it tougher.
Okay, but you can spit with a mouthpiece. You can,
it's possible. But it's tougher with a mouthpiece. He was exasperated, to use his words. So if you're fatigued, if you're breathing hard, it's possible that something flies out of your mouth on accident. And that's what I tend to believe, that something flew out on accident because Chris Paul didn't respond. He reacted like if I was talking to you up close and you accidentally spit and I might wipe something off. He didn't react like, true. What are you doing? And Rondo said a point, like, if I just spit on somebody, I'm not doing this and looking away. I'm expecting him to punch me.
He's going to throw down.
Right.
He's going to respond. Yep.
That convinced me that there's no question spit flew on Chris Paul's face.
Are you sure it got on? I don't think it got on his face.
Well, he did wipe his face. So that makes me think it got on his face. And then I think perhaps after they scuffled, LeBron gives Chris Paul, and according to Rondo, did Chris go to a sideline reporter for ESPN and told him he spit on me?
He was yelling he spit on me all the way to the sideline.
See, I'm wondering if at that point Chris understands the ramifications of what just happened. And I know all the players had to be expecting more than 4-3 in 2 games. Because the last time it happened in 2006, Carmelo Anthony got 15 games. 15. Another Jared Jeffries get 10.
No, JR and
Nate Robinson.
They both got 10 for they squared off and threw punches.
So Chris may be thinking, as the Players Association president, this could be 10 games, this could be 15 games, whatever. And maybe he starts making an excuse. Because I just don't think he reacted like a person that thinks they purposely got spit on.
Okay, I got it. But if you're saying any of the little spittle, I'll just call it spittle, if it landed, does he not have reason to be screaming he spit on me?
Well, if it's accidental, again, if you and I are talking face to face and it's heated and a little comes out, I can probably tell if you did it on purpose, right?
He wasn't speaking when he was spitting. He was just kind of turning his face to the side, and he was trying to dismiss Chris with little spits. just like, this is what I think of you. And whether it landed or not is debatable. But Chris was angry enough and startled enough that he thought about it for just a second. And then he said, how can I retaliate without getting a 15-game suspension? I'll just poke him in the face. Maybe I can get away with poking because I got to do something. Right. But Rondo's explanation was, then why didn't LeBron or Melo, who were standing close by watching, they didn't react to his little spits, right? Did they not see them? Did they not think it was a big enough deal to react to? Because neither of them jumped in like,
yeah.
Right?
I mean, there's no question spit got on his face.
I don't know about that.
Well, again, maybe was he? I don't know if Chris was acting when he did this, but to your other point, okay, about you're right. These guys came out. Ryan Hollins joined Big Baby Davis, said CP3 was a bad teammate.
As a Clipper.
Yep. I spoke or texted with a Clippers executive yesterday and asked them, is Rondo right? What do you think about his comments about Chris Paul being a bad teammate? He said he was right. Wow. You know, so Chris does have that reputation.
Strong.
And he said the reasoning was he's abrasive. When he's on the court, he's directing traffic, telling you go here, go there. And according to him, doesn't take responsibility for his mistakes. He's pointing out all the teammates. You didn't do this, you did that, do this, go here. But then when he messes up, doesn't really take responsibility for it. And so those are some of the reasons that I've been told things teammates have against him. As far as his image, it's interesting. Remember Derek Fisher? And Derek, we had him on my radio show, Rob Park and I, the other night. Good guy. But he had this pristine image, kind of similar maybe to Chris Paul. You know, he had written a book and it was in Christian bookstores and all this. Like he had this pristine image.
Okay.
Then as when he really had started in Utah, when he left, remember he left there to go to the Lakers and people said he blamed it on his child's illness, but it really wasn't that. Then he coaches the Knicks and, you know, has all these issues with womanizing and all types of stuff.
Yep, all types of stuff.
That seem underhanded. So I think that's someone that had a certain image being proven not to be that guy. As far as dirty play, there's no question Chris does some things like that. But again, John Stockton, if you ask players of that era, who was the dirtiest player in the league, you know a lot of them say John Stockton. I kind of think that's a little guy getting away with what he can. Now, hitting guys in the groin and stuff like that.
Like, I don't remember John Stockton punching anybody in the groin. He was borderline dirty. He was savvy and crafty and clever.
Right.
And he's going to push it into the gray area with elbows and knees and whatever. But can we just run through the montage just for everybody's sake of, here, I think we're seeing him right now. This is the Julius Hodge. Just hit him right in the groin. He just slugged him in the groin. He got a game for that. This is on Anthony Davis. He just dribbles into Anthony's knee, and the next thing we see is Anthony had to be carried off the floor to the locker room after this one. And here's the Chris Kaman. He had just hit him right in the groin, and Chris Kaman just couldn't take it, pushed him back. Oof. And you're saying, what is that? You're better than that, Chris Paul. This is just a little shot to Kevin's butt, Kevin Durant. Here, that's on Marc Gasol again. He just goes up and just hits him right in the groin.
We've seen Draymond Green kicking guys. I mean, I've always written Chris's plays like that off. Again, some of them are over the line when you hit a guy in the groin, but I've written it off as a feisty young guy who's just battling. And
he's not just getting pass after pass after pass, because he showed you, he set his historical precedent in the ACC tournament against Julius Hodge. He just cold cocks him right in the groin, just slugged him. And they said, okay, you're out for a game. This is his last run with Wake Forest, his second year there.
Yep.
Okay, so he predicted what he was going to be as an NBA player, but I still say those ads, the State Farm commercials, are so effective that it makes people think subliminally, he's really a good guy, because his twin brother is a great agent, and it came because it's great. They're really good.
Right,
They're effective. They got me.
Even the ones without the twin brother.
Okay, even without him. Right. And now Chris is hanging out with this really nice guy agent, and they're doing all kinds. They're looking at the stars, and they're just hanging out together because they're thick as thieves. They're really having a good time. Right. Well, after a while, you think, that guy's really a good guy, that Chris Paul. Mm-hmm. He doesn't play like a really nice guy. So Rondo is saying the media is giving him a pass. You know, he used the phrase, you're tampering with the evidence because you're giving Chris the pass here. Well, I think that's true, except it's ironic because Chris has become the victim of the spitting when, in fact, he has a long history of victimizing a whole lot of opponents that it just comes and goes and nobody makes any issue of it.
I think Chris, even before the State Farm ads, he had this pristine reputation, even with what he did in the NCAA tournament. I remember there was an article, I don't know if it was ESPN the magazine or Sports Illustrated, calling him St. Paul. You know, when he was in college or coming out. You know, that was his reputation. And what he's done with the ads, that's what people do. You know, I mean, Michael Jordan, I'm not saying he was a dirty player at all, But he was as tough as nails. We know his situation with Steve Kerr and how tough he was on other teammates.
Well,
but you see him in
practice.
Right.
Yeah.
But you see him in the Haynes commercials, and he seems all be like Mike. If I can be like Mike, I mean that's what people do. Is they put forward this image of just wholesome goodness. But they may be something different, or at least when they're playing their game or behind closed doors. So I don't think it's that odd what Chris is doing.
So I never thought Michael was anything but a cold-blooded killer on the basketball court, and I covered his teams. I knew him off the court, and I knew how he dealt with me, and he liked and respected me, but there'd be days if you caught him on the wrong day when he'd walk by a couple of us reporters and say, I ain't talking to you, blah, 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 today. Like, just dismisses.
Right.
But it's just who he was, and I just laugh like, that's that guy.
Yep.
And that's the guy who went after everybody in his Hall of Fame acceptance speech and just obliterated everybody he thought had done him wrong. I'm okay with that because he was also on the court. You could just watch him. I think he was as effective a trash talker, as low blow a trash talker as ever there was, because he would take guys aside when free throws were being shot and just get in their ear and just annihilate them psychologically and then back it up.
Right.
Larry Bird could do that too, but I think Jordan might have been the greatest at that. But when I step back, the reason Rondo is so bitter about Chris Paul is, even though Chris Paul has made 9 All-Star teams, Rondo made 4 in a row as a Boston Celtic, which is pretty good. It was 10, 11, 12, and 13. Pretty good for a little guy, right? But in the postseason, Rajon Rondo has played at a higher level consistently than Chris Paul has. If you ask me, who do I want in the postseason at point guard, I'll take Rondo over Chris Paul. And I know you think Chris is just a better player.
That's a good point. I mean, remember, Rondo had some incredible playoff games with Boston.
And I know
incredible triple doubles.
I got it. He's playing with Hall of Famers, 3 Hall of Famers. But still.
Last year he was great. In New Orleans.
He was great until they ran into the juggernaut in the second round. But again, against Portland in the first round, was he not great?
I do agree with you. I think that eats up Rondo. Rondo, I'm sure, thinks he's as good as Chris Paul, if not better. And he's looking at Chris Paul gets, all the praise. Chris Paul's going to be a Hall of Famer. Rondo, doubtful. Yeah, right? Won't be a Hall of Famer. Yeah. So I'm sure he's looking at that clutch play. And here's the thing with Chris. We talked about, horrible teammate, bad teammate. We talked about Jordan. Decked 2 teammates in practice, Isaiah Thomas had a fight, punched out Bill Laimbeer in practice, was hard driving. We have seen players like this before. We know LeBron jumps on teammates and expects a certain level of performance out of them. Here's the rub. You can do that when you win. Even if you do it before you win, that's fine if you eventually win. When you do it and you don't win, you're just a jerk.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what I saw with Stephon Marbury. When I covered him when he was with the Nets and throughout his career, he looked at, I believe, because he had mentioned some things, Isaiah Thomas was a hard-driving teammate. Steph was like, Isaiah drove his teammates hard. He did this, did that. Steph tried to do it. The difference was Isaiah won. So Steph rub teammates the wrong way unless you win. I'm sure a lot of teammates didn't like the way Jordan treated them. But it was like, hey, let's just hop on the bandwagon.
I agree with that.
Right? And I think that's Chris's problem.
You can say this is unfair, but Rondo in the postseason is 60-45. And again, you can argue better teammates. But listen, those Clipper teams were pretty loaded with players, I would say. And the New Orleans team that he was on, that Chris was on, was not bad because they gave the Spurs all they wanted. The Spurs were scared to death of those teams.
Tyson Chandler.
Yeah. And yet, Chris Paul is 44-47 in the postseason. 44-47. He's made it to only last year. That was his first conference finals. Rondo's played in 2 finals and 3 conference finals. So the point is, 60-45 versus 44-47. That's underachievement for Chris Paul. It's why I've called him in the past. I didn't last year, but I used to call him CP0 because he had 0 rings, and he still has 0 rings. But the best I've ever seen him play was in the last minute against my Spurs in round 1, going back to whatever it was, 20.
When he was in New Orleans?
No. In the Clippers.
When they came back and beat him.
Because the Spurs lost on the last night of the regular season to fall from 2nd to, what was it, like 6th or something like that, and had to play play a first-round matchup with the Clippers, and they had home court, and it went to Game 7 at Staples. And Chris Paul came back on a pulled hamstring and made a shot over Tim Duncan to win the game. But that was only round 1. Then what happened in round 2? He didn't play for a couple of games. They get up 3-1 on the Houston Rockets, and they collapse when Chris comes back in the lineup. They just collapse, and it was a. It was
terrible.
You know, it was a bad. It just looks bad on his resume that you blew a 3-1 lead.
Yeah.
Okay. Last year was the best I've ever seen him play, but he was getting to play with a guy that he knows, loves, and one of the top offensive players in the history of this game. Wouldn't you say James Harden's at least top 5 offensive player?
Yeah.
Okay. So he gets to play with James Harden, and they're up 3-2 on Golden State. Now I thought they had Golden State on the ropes, and during that 5th game, he pulls his hamstring and is gone, and that's the end of the series. But that's the best I've ever seen him play in the postseason, was with James and a team that was the best team in the West during the regular season.
You didn't even mention against Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
The failures he had when
it was just terrible.
Game 5, he basically blew it. They're up 45
No, he was
seconds.
up. Yeah, I mean, he was the culprit.
Yep.
And how many Golden State games when they had their early rivalry? I don't know.
I've typically not held small point guards, like when you bring up the postseason record, because I haven't expected a small point guard to lead a team to a championship. The only one that really did was Isaiah Thomas. But now in this era, it's beginning to happen. Steph Curry. And so now you can hold Chris to a higher standard and say, why haven't you been able to get it done in this era when point guards are leading their team?
Okay, so bottom line, I can't absolve Rondo from this because something came out of his mouth. But I did appreciate.
So even if it's not but you think it was purposeful?
I just think he intentionally spit at him, not on him. But that's just me, and that's enough. That still qualifies as blatant disrespect.
If he did it purposely, there's no question.
But in the end,
he made a convincing argument.
But I did love what he said yesterday, because that's the first time a player of stature called out.
Look
Chris
who
Paul.
else he's called out. Dwayne Wade.
He did. That's
Last year, Dwayne Wade and Jimmy Butler, or 2 years ago, Dwayne Wade and Jimmy Butler.
Interesting.
I think it's important he said something, because I didn't think about the body language. That was a good point.
I thought he made a great, description of his reaction. Because you're right, you spit on somebody, you're expecting to get clocked.
And Skip, you said it was building, so let's see if it continues to build, especially with the Lakers at 0-3. Is it LeBron's fault? We'll discuss that with Michael Rappaport. Buckle up. Yeah. He's here next.
We got two LeBron skeptics. I'll use that word. It'd be nice.
No mercy.
Hey guys, Jenny Taft here. More of the Undisputed podcast is on the way, but first I wanted to tell you guys about Quip. One of the most important things we do for our health every day is brushing our teeth, yet most of us don't do it properly. Luckily, there's Quip, a better electric toothbrush backed by over 20,000 dental professionals. What makes Quip the ideal option? Quip toothbrushes use sonic vibrations that are gentle enough for sensitive gums and even sensitive teeth. They come with a built-in 2-minute timer that pulses every 30 seconds to remind you when it's time to switch sides. It's perfect for me. Plus, for just $5, you can get new brush heads automatically delivered every 3 months, just like the dentist recommends, with a variety of slick colors, including my personal favorite, silver metal. Quip has something for everyone. Quip starts at just $25, and if you go to getquip.com/undisputed right now, you get your first refill pack for free with a Quip electric toothbrush. That's your first refill pack free at getquip.com/undisputed. Now, back to the show and get brushing.
No mercy.
Well, LeBron's start in LA has not gone as planned. He missed both free throws late in overtime and a jumper at the buzzer in Monday's loss to the Spurs that dropped the Lakers' record to 0-3. But LeBron still seems optimistic. After the loss, he said, quote, "I know what I got myself into. It's a process. I get it. And it will be fine." We are joined by friend of the show, Michael Rappaport.
Welcome.
Glad to be here.
Is this the earliest you've ever been up in your life?
Not ever in my life, but I woke up this morning and I said, I have a lot of respect for you guys every morning out here in the grind.
Thank you. You know what we're dealing with.
It's early in the morning when it's still dark out.
Well, I have a lot of respect for LeBron James.
Oh, do you? Well, Skip, since you're kind of the regular here, I'm going to go with you on this one. How much blame do you give LeBron for the way this has started?
I'm going to honor LeBron James today by giving him 100% of the blame for 0-3. I'm going to give him a pass this year on competing for a championship because obviously he doesn't have a co-star or a second star, at least for this year. So he took 1 year sort of off, if you will, from all the pressure and expectation. But I am not going to give him a pass for losing 3 games that his young and old teammates put him in position to win all 3 times. At Portland, Lonzo hit a 3 that cut it to 1 with 8 minutes left. That's good position to go win that game. Then against Houston, when the brawl broke out, they're only down 1 with 4:13 left. Down 1 at home. And then against San Antonio, overtime, do I need to remind everybody, they're up 6 with 55 seconds left at home against what's left of my San Antonio Spurs, who don't have their point guard. DeJounte Murray's gone for the year, and there's obviously no Manu, no Tony Parker. You got to close that deal. You got to close King, and close King. And I'm saying all I ever hear on this show from that seat is he's the best player on the planet. Okay, I'll honor him. I'll give you that. All I hear is he's better than Michael Jordan. I won't give you that, but that's all I ever hear. So I'm sort of raising the bar way up here for him, even without a co-star. So in the end, all I know is that at Portland, he just disappeared down the stretch. I know it was just game 1, and he's never been very good in game 1, and he doesn't really know his teammates that well yet. But I'm not going to give you a pass. You're the best player on the floor. And then against Houston, everything's chaotic. You're the best player on the floor with 4 minutes left at home. And against San Antonio, do I even need to bring up the fact he missed 2 free throws because he always is a liability at the free throw line late in games. I don't get it. It's the worst Achilles heel any superstar has ever had in the history of sports. He can't make late game free throws. I don't know why. It's in his head. He's got demons. He just chokes his brains out at the free throw line late. And I'm not saying he's a choker, but when that happens, when he gets in that situation, he either runs from the free throw line or when they intentionally foul him, you know what's coming. He's going to miss one or both. And he missed both, which put him in a position of having to shoot a 3 at the end of the game when he should have driven the basketball. He's simply the most unstoppable driver of the basketball in the history of this game, but he's going to run from the late game free throw line. So again, 3 times, they should be 3-0. His teammates put him in position to be 3-0 in games they should have won. I know Houston's really a good basketball team, but that's at your house, and you got to win your home opener against Houston when you're that close with 4 minutes left in the game. So again, I'm honoring him by saying 100% of the blame.
I'm going to quote the great James Brown. I'm going to pass the peas like they used to say. I give him 100% of the blame. Because if they were 3-0, we would be giving LeBron James 100% of the blame.
And he would deserve it.
He would deserve it.
Yeah.
Now, listen, he missed those free throws that Kobe would have made.
Michael
would have made. Excuse me, I'm not passing the piece yet. That Michael would have made, that Larry Bird would have made, that Steph and KD would have made. And listen, I don't think they had a great camp. I think the happiest person in the world about Spitgate is LeBron James because it defers off of him.
True, good point.
And I just feel like I will not be – I'm not saying he's lost a step, but I will not be surprised if he does what he did when he first went back to Cleveland, and he might take those 2 weeks off because he doesn't –
Miami, you say?
He might go to the – he might go for some reason go back to Miami because I feel like there's not that sprightliness. It's the beginning of the season. He looks a little like – you know how towards the end of last season, and he was magnificent. It's like he was like pushing through. He feels like right now he's sort of pushing through physically. I saw him one time after running up and down the court a couple of times, catching his breath. Listen, I came on this show last time. I said that they're going to be in the Western Conference Finals. I still think that. But even the second game at home, there wasn't that excitement in Staples Center because they were like, oh, well, this isn't what it was cracked up to be. I was expecting a religious experience.
You talking about the Houston game?
Yeah, it was.
No, you're talking about the San Antonio.
No, I'm talking about the San Antonio game. It was just like that. It was like it was a little bit of deflation in Staples because it's not all that it's cracked up to be. And I feel like their camp must not have been that good. It is the beginning of the season. But this ain't the East. You can't wait till Christmas to figure it out. By Christmas, you could be like fighting to get in the playoffs. Yeah, you're in the West now.
They well might be.
You could be.
And, we've been hearing about, Space Jam this and the shop and this and all these things all summer. And he did a lot of great things with the school and all the things that he did. But at the end of the day, you are a basketball player. Like Kobe loves storytelling. But at the end of the day, it's like they're always going to want to talk. When you talk to Kobe, the first thing you want to talk about is hoops. Right. So I'll pass the peas to you.
Okay, no surprise that you two guys gave 100% of the blame to LeBron James. Now let me bring
Okay.
some rationality to
Please.
this situation. LeBron hasn't been great. He has not been the best player in the world these first 3 games. I don't even know he's been a top 4 or 5 player in the league thus far. Okay, he hasn't played up to LeBron James standards. However, if we do a pie chart of blame for why the Lakers are 0-3, I'm going to split it up into thirds. The first third I give to the other Lakers because, number one, they have not played a lick, and LeBron's one of them. They have not played a lick of defense. Not a lick. They are ranked 26 in the league in defensive efficiency. They are giving up, you know how many points a game they're giving up? 132 points a game.
Get used to it across the league, though.
But nobody's giving up that much. They're dead last, 132
Are you surprised?
points a game. And I'm definitely surprised. That's like a football team giving up 47 points a game.
I said before the year, nobody plays defense starting with the best player on the team.
Yeah.
He's
You did
not,
say
and
that.
I agree. But here's my thing. The young legs. They got young legs. LeBron has an excuse. He's old. He's in his 16th year. I don't expect him to get out there and be a great defender anymore. But the young guys, they're using their youth to run up and down and shoot layups, but they're not using it to get down and buckle down and play defense. So I give a third of it to the other guys. I give a third of it to the front office and the coaching staff for putting together this mismatched team. Now, did LeBron James have something to do with putting together this team? Yes. I don't know if he actually said, here's the guys I want, go get them, Magic and Rob, or if they said, hey, what do you think about so-and-so? Yeah, I like it. Whatever it was, LeBron was involved. I don't know who had the final say, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with Magic and Rob Pelinka because I don't care if LeBron did tell you go get these guys. You have to make a decision. Well, that doesn't fit. You've always had shooters. How's the floor gonna be spread for you to drive if we got no shooters? And it's not like Cleveland where he had the 1-year deals and he could dictate because they were afraid he'd leave. You got him locked up for 4 years. And you're Magic Johnson. LeBron, is he bigger than Magic? I don't know.
Yes.
Magic is okay, but
Yes.
not in LA. No. And Magic is big enough. He's bigger than Pat Riley too. But Pat Riley put the foot down in Miami and said, no, we're doing it this way. So the front office could have did that. And Luke, I'll look at, where's the defense? What in the world are y'all doing in the half court? They're only good when they run up and down and get layups. So a third to the front office too. And then a third to LeBron James. Like I said, he's not played like the best player in the world. Don't give me 27, 8, and 8. That looks nice. Heck, in this day and age, guys are putting up ridiculous numbers. What's Kumbo? 29, 16, and 8 or whatever it is.
Anthony
So
Davis.
right, and you're right. He hasn't. They were in all 3 of those games. He didn't close it out. Obviously, San Antonio. But let me say this, because I watched you the other day say Kobe would have made those
said it
free
right
throws.
away.
Yeah,
Right.
Larry too.
And I sat there and I said, you know what? I have to agree. Kobe would have made at least one. But then, social media, Twitter, I saw all these videos of not only Kobe Bryant missing 2 free throws in the exact same situation, but Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan missing 2 free throws in the exact same situation. Kobe did it. Of course, he did it. I checked with Steve. He did it like almost maybe 10 times. But certainly the one against Portland, it was the same thing. They're down 1. So it happens to the best of them, literally.
It happens way too often to LeBron James. Even if I just go back to the beginning of last basketball season, he's now 10 for 21 with 15 seconds or left in the fourth quarter of overtime of 1 possession games. He's 10 of 21. What's that, 49%?
It's something there. I'll give you that.
Well,
There's
in his career.
I was encouraged because, and you admit it, he wanted the ball though. Remember when he got the inbounds, he held it until they fouled him. So he didn't run from it, but he did miss him.
Well, we heard a lot in the offseason about all sorts of things. We didn't hear about him shooting free throws. I'm just saying. You can only do so much. There's only so much multitasking you can do.
The buck also stops on your preseason prediction because you said they're going to win 54 games.
I know.
So now you're ripping them after you predicted that all that was great.
When I saw what they were doing, Lance, Rondo, Beasley, JaVale McGee, my instinct was, what in the world? Where are the shooters? I think I even tweeted it. Then I talked to some people around the situation. Well, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get some dogs. We're getting some versatile defenders. We can switch everything like Houston did with Golden State. You're not going to outshoot them. You know, we can get up and down, and we got decision makers other than LeBron, and it made sense. Like, what? And look, like you said, let's see how this goes. I'm not writing them off. Now, 53 looks like a pipe dream, but I think they'll get in the playoffs, and if they don't get the 8th seed
so you're revising your prediction after 3
No,
games.
I'm going to stick with it, but I mean, it's not looking that great right now because 53 wins, and the West is looking maybe tougher than we thought with Denver and Utah, and Memphis is actually even playing
and
well.
New Orleans.
Yeah,
and
New Orleans looks special.
And don't sleep on the Clippers either. They're pretty good.
I agree.
And right now, the Kings have more win than the King. Right now, the Sacramento Kings. Yeah,
that's clever.
Yeah, you can run with that.
And by the way, speaking of the King, I've said this for 2 years. He plays no defense anymore. Through Monday night's game, he ranked 338th in individual defensive win shares. And another key play on Monday night in overtime was that LeBron, as usual, just hung back in the lane and he watched Rudy Gay go to the top of the circle and say, I'm open, give me the ball. And he shot an uncontested 3 that got them back in position to do what they did when he missed the free throw.
And here's one of the things I was looking at, and as one of the things I want LeBron to do as well, and why I held this against him with his 35% blame I put on him. He's got to get these guys to understand the importance of defense, but it's hard. Even if you're the best player in the world, that's what I'm saying. It's hard to do that, even as great as you are, if you're not defending. If they don't see you doing it, it's going to be hard for them to do it.
This life lessons, old man by the sea, he's gotta. These guys, listen, that's got to happen in practice. On the court, you got to let these young dogs, Kuzma, Lonzo, Hart, let them go. They don't need to sit there and be like, hey, when you fall down, forget all that. Let them play. When they're free, they play well. Hart's like an attacker. Kuzma's an attacker. Lonzo, when he's free, he's an attacker. Like, nobody wants to sit there and defer to him and Ron, like, okay, boss. Oh, well, you guys, when you won the championship in Boston, none of that matters. Those guys were 10 years old when that happened.
And when he was mic'd up on Saturday night, he was really directing traffic on defense. Switch it, get over the top, switch. But he's not actually playing himself. He's just calling out.
And in the half-court offense, it's going to be tough to figure this out because one of the challenges of playing with LeBron is that he does so much. He does everything. He can bring it up the court. He can post. He can be in the elbow. He can be on the wing. That you have to adjust almost from possession to possession. Okay, where do I go? The easiest guys it is for to play with LeBron are just spot-up shooters. Because those are the guys you can't create on your own, so you're just sitting there waiting. He's going to drive. But now, you want him with the ball in his hands a good amount because he's so great with it. But
I thought that wasn't going to happen. Remember, he was going to change.
He's clearly not as comfortable off the ball. But because I like him, when he's off the ball in the post or on the elbow, you see he's making some great bounce passes and things like that. But then sometimes he's off the ball just kind of standing on the top of the key, taking the possession
when
up.
Push comes to shove, this team will be at its best when he has the ball in his hands.
That's what he does.
But here's the problem.
He was born with the ball in his hands.
I agree.
It's never going to change.
But here's the problem. You don't have the shooter. So that last shot, I was disappointed in the step back 22-footer, right? But he couldn't have driven all the way to the hoop because the Spurs were stacked in the lane.
They weren't stacked in the lane.
They were.
On that side, it was Bryn Forbes if he went to the left.
He was giving him, you mean the guy covering Josh Hart?
No, Rudy Gay's on him man-to-man.
Right.
But if he drives to his left, Bryn Forbes is on whoever's over on that side.
But he's moving. He was moving. Like, I think they would have cut LeBron off if he had tried to drive. And that's the problem when you don't have shooters. If you have shooters, the lane's going to be open and you can drive.
You know what? I'll take Josh Hart or Kyle Kuzma shooting that last-second shot over LeBron. I just will.
Well,
Someone's getting traded.
He's hit his fair share of
He
clutch
has.
shots. We know that.
Okay, he has. But again, I would have taken that because they were showing me those guys got guts, and they are fearless.
I agree.
Both of them.
And they need to be free and young and
They've
be
been
fearless.
free in the transition.
Yeah, but I think someone's getting traded. One guy is going to get traded. They have too many guys that are similar. I don't know who they're going to trade him for, who he's got in his Rolodex, but one of those guys is going to go.
Last quick point, and I used to say this about Michael Jordan because it disturbed me about him, but LeBron brags about smoking cigars and drinking wine, and at some point as you get older, 16, 17, 18th year, you can't do that. I'm just saying, is he starting to fade a little bit? Does he have the wind and the stamina that he used to have? I don't know. But if you keep doing that, the older you get, the more it's going to affect you.
And he is
just trust me on that, because he brags about it all the time.
He's in great shape, though, for a guy in his 16th year.
But I haven't seen the shape manifest itself down the stretch of these games where he's in better shape than everybody else on the court.
I agree. He might go to Miami for 2 weeks like he did in Cleveland
Oh,
for some
boy.
reason. I don't know why.
Back in
why
action
either.
tonight. I know they shouldn't have any problems in Phoenix,
Get some
but
sun.
he's never started 0-4 in his career, so they need the win tonight. Never.
Phoenix is talented.
Never. Oh boy, that'll be fun tomorrow if that's the case. Chris is going to join us in a bit. Are the Cowboys on their way to the playoffs with Amari Cooper? We'll discuss that with James Harrison next.
No mercy.
So the Cowboys made a big move earlier this week, trading a first-round pick for Amari Cooper. Cowboy great Troy Aikman said he's, quote, a little skeptical about the trade, and Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio says the Cowboys' move is not good financially, and they should have drafted Falcons rookie wideout Calvin Ridley with their 19th pick instead. So Michael Rappaport's still with us. Now we have James Harrison
Now
joining the mix.
We have a better Shannon Sharpe actually sitting.
Yeah, let's call this Skip and James till Shannon get back.
Oh,
Skip and
really?
James.
Oh,
I mean, a little
wow.
confidence over in that
Taking over
corner.
this place. Wow.
Either way, Skip, I'm going to start with you here.
Thank you.
With the addition of Amari Cooper with your Cowboys, I mean, is Dallas the new favorite in the NFC East?
Yes, they are.
The favorite.
They will win the NFC East because of Amari Cooper, unless that demonic Howie Roseman, the GM of the Eagles, does what he's been doing for 2 years, which is dominate the National Football League, unless he goes and gets Patrick Peterson from Arizona, because that would cancel out the Amari move in Dallas. But barring that, if it stays as is, the scales just tipped in Dallas's favor in an NFC East that hasn't even started. And I'm sorry, your Giants are done already, but that's a whole nother story. We'll get to that a little later. But may I address the Calvin Ridley angle, please? Because Mike Florio is trying to say that he would have been a better buy, and I assume a better player than Amari Cooper. Baloney to that. Calvin Ridley is not in Amari Cooper's league. Amari Cooper made 2 Pro Bowls as a rookie and a second-year player in this league, and that's pretty great. And if I put Amari Cooper right now in the Atlanta Falcons receiver mix, not good things, but great things would happen, because obviously Calvin Ridley gets to play opposite Julio and Sanu. And you see that little Marvin Hall, their second-year player, catch a touchdown pass on Monday night. So they have speed everywhere. And Austin Hooper, as their tight end, he's pretty good. So once, you know, if you put Calvin Ridley in the middle of that, yeah, he's going to rise and shine occasionally, but not like Amari Cooper. So it's money well spent. Next year he would cost $13.9 million. Show me a free agent that'll be on the market next year that would be better than Amari Cooper. There's just not one. So again, did they overpay with the first-round pick? Yeah, because he's not worth the first-rounder, but the Eagles had offered a second-rounder. So what are you going to do? You have a chance to go win this division, and Jerry Jones finally did something, and he made the Dallas Cowboys a lot better because they don't have anything remotely
He makes
like
them
Amari
a lot
Cooper.
better, but I don't think he makes them the favorite. I'm still rolling with Washington because I still have a defense that's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It's
I will
3
give you that.
versus your defense, and they're 5. It's not that many yards in between them as far as everything goes.
Yards, yeah.
I have a
Second
quarterback.
defense allowed.
I have a quarterback that is not going to lose me a
He is
game
not.
in Washington. He's going to control the ball. He's going to make sure he doesn't turn the ball over. I don't have that in Dallas. I seen that give a costly turnover that actually ended up costing them the game. And right now we're going off of what he has done his first 2 years, not what he's done his last 2 years. I have no doubt that he'll make them better. But the favorite is no way.
And it all depends on which Amari Cooper shows up, because last year quietly, I don't know how they didn't put it on him, he had the yips. Okay, he was dropping passes. Dropping passes for a wide receiver is like, I don't know, if you're a broadcaster, can't talk. Or, I mean, like, if you're a wide receiver and you're dropping passes continually over and over, and I love Amari Cooper, and I loved him his first 2 seasons, but last year was really bad. This year's been a garbage fire out there in Oakland. But he's got, you're talking about Patrick Peterson, he's got Malcolm Butler coming up after the bye. And that's no day at the beach.
No.
So as Amari Cooper, it depends on which guy shows up. I personally, I can't stand Dallas Cowboys and James Harrison. I got so many problems with the teams you played on.
Wow.
But so many problems. But in my opinion, I think Amari Cooper, it'll be some fresh air. It'll be a change of scenery. And hopefully he can live up to the potential that we all know he has.
Okay, to your point, and I've been very open and objective about this. Over Amari's time in the league, 3+ seasons, he leads the NFL. He's tied for the lead in drop passes. Do I love that? No, I don't. Was he an unhappy camper in Oakland? I believe he was, because even yesterday there was a report that said he wanted out, which did my heart good, because there's one thing to get dumped, to get pushed out the back door. It's another thing that you demanded or requested a trade, and he did, according to a report yesterday. So he was done with them just as they were done with him. And there's also the stat that he ranks 210th over his whole career in percentage of targets caught. So that's not great. So you're throwing him a bunch of balls that don't always get caught, but could that be the quarterback's fault occasionally? Were they off-target passes? It could be. Okay. So in the end, what you can address this, because
You're so excited about this.
Yeah, well, I am, because the owner has done nothing for a whole year except cut Des Bryant. That's the only move Jerry Jones made, and he is the general manager. He is the operator of that football team. And I kept pounding this desk. Where are you? Wake up. Are you resting on your new Hall of Fame laurels? And he finally plunged and did something. He overpaid to again, fill the biggest void on the football team. They got a collection of number 3 receivers, and they're still hanging in at 3 and 4. Now they have a bona fide 2-time Pro Bowl number 1 receiver who's only 24 years of age. That's mind-blowing to me. And they finally, the front office and Jerry sent a message to that locker room: we're going to do something for you. Because how important is it in the locker room? Because you keep saying, we're playing with one arm tied behind our back. And all of a sudden, you got help on the way. And it's former 4th overall pick in the draft help. It's big-time help. This kid is gifted as a receiver. Does he have that dog in him? I don't know. But is he way better than what they have? The locker room, you think I'm excited? You don't think Dak's excited?
Of course he's excited. Yeah. I mean, he has to be. Like you said, you see what he did his previous 2 years, his first 2 years in the league, but his last 2 years, it hasn't been
1 year. Yeah.
Up to this point, it hasn't been anything spectacular. Of course, they're looking forward, because now he has something that he can look forward to throwing down the field to, if he could get it to him. Now, he had some times last year where he couldn't get the ball down to Dez, so that could be that's going to be a situation where he's going to show if he can actually do that.
Okay, Dez led the league in drops last year, which is why Dez is still, unfortunately for Dez, sitting on his couch. And I don't know, I feel really sorry for him now, because once they went and got Amari, that's like over and out, right?
And what does this do for Ezekiel Elliott? If Amari shows up and he's playing, hopefully...
if he shows up, it does something great. It gets that 8 and 9 guys up out of the box. It makes them have to put 2 safeties back there at all times. You got to keep somebody over the top of him. It does great if. It's a lot of if was a fifth, we all be drunk, but we sober.
I need wide receivers to catch the ball. That's what you're getting paid for. I don't care if it's missed passes, overthrown. You got to catch that rock.
Odell had one right in his lap in the end zone.
I'm just saying. We didn't say you can't throw me sneak attacks anything about Odell. I got enough problems as it is. I know he had a few.
So I predicted, silly me, before the season started that Ezekiel would have a record-breaking year, and he's not off to the races. He's going nowhere fast. He had 34 yards on a grand total of 15 carries at Washington, because, to your point, they're really good on defense. Exactly. They're not as good as Dallas, because Dallas is 2nd overall in points allowed. But, again, if you even have a threat, whether he can catch it or not, Dez was no longer a threat because Dez couldn't run anymore. His body's broken down, betrayed him, and nobody thought Dez could separate. Nobody thought Dez could run by you. But Amari has been, knocking on wood, he has been completely healthy for 3+ years. He is in concussion protocol, but as far as knees, shoulders, whatever.
But he still has the drops, as you said.
Okay. Well, he's okay.
So-
I got it, but he can still run 4.4. So all of a sudden, I have a threat that it can only help Zeke. It can only help Dak. Is the pressure now mounting on Dak Prescott? Yeah, it is, because everybody's, for reasons I can't figure out, everybody's taking shots. Like everybody's doubting him when he played simply the greatest rookie quarterback season in the history of this league. You go find me a better one.
This is 17 years
He
ago now.
had an offensive line that was moving. They was doing a lot of work.
Yep.
He had a running back that was taking advantage of that offensive line doing a lot of work.
Innocence is bliss, too.
Okay. What are you talking about?
I'm saying,
I'm
like,
just giving you. I'm spitting facts.
I know you're spitting facts.
I'm not ignorant.
But he just kind of fell into it. Tony Romo was out there. Innocence is bliss. Now it's people figured him out. I like Dak. I hate the Cowboys. I like Dak. I want to see him do well. But listen, something's not right. If Amari Cooper could catch the ball, not asking a lot, it'll do wonders for everybody.
Okay. My only problem with Dak was in the offseason, I believe I counted 12 national commercials he did. 12. Maybe it's too many too soon.
Many.
You might think that if he was your
I
quarterback.
didn't get any commercials, so I don't know.
Yeah.
They didn't want to do it.
But again, if Ben gets 12, Ben's got rings.
Got rings, got Super Bowl, got Pro Bowls.
Yeah.
He got it all.
Yeah. So maybe you should do it before you advertise it. Okay, I'm with that. But now at least he's got somebody credible to throw it to. Yeah. And we'll see if he can catch it. I think he will.
See it makes him the favorites, though.
And remember, now you got a kid who's coming in saying, Gruden, watch this. And I love that. Because he's going to show Gruden he was wrong.
Got chip on your shoulder now.
No mercy.
We're going to stay talking about the Cowboys because so many layers to the story. They did lose that heartbreaker to the Redskins Sunday, and one of the reasons was a penalty call late in the game. Brett Maher set up for a 47-yard field goal, but the refs called a false start on the Cowboys' long snapper. Now Ed Werder reports Jay Gruden planted the idea in the officials' heads to look out for the way the center moved the ball. Exactly.
What?
The penalty pushed it back to a 52-yarder. Maher's potential game-tying field goal hit the upright. Skip. Do the Redskins coaches deserve credit for the penalty call?
I'm about to snap over this snap because the Redskin coaches are actually taking credit for something that shouldn't have been called in the first place, that wasn't a penalty to start with. I'm going to restate my case. LP LaDussard is the snapper for the Dallas Cowboys. You don't know him, but he is the longest tenured Dallas Cowboy. He's been there for 14 seasons. How long did you last?
16.
16 seasons. So he's starting to get in your territory, but he's unknown, faceless. Nobody knows who he is. Nobody cares who he is until right now. He has snapped for over 400 field goals in his time in Dallas. And he said after the game, I did exactly the same thing I've done on all 400 of those snaps before. He always slightly wiggles the ball just to get a grip on it. That's before anybody gets set. Then he comes set with the ball to snap it, and he stayed set like he always does, as you can see on the video.
What the referee say, though?
Yeah, what's that?
What the referee say? They said that
okay,
was
the referee. Okay, so let's say that Jay Gruden is whispering in the ref's ear, you got to watch him, you got to watch him. Well, if you're going to jump, wouldn't you jump when he wiggles the ball to get a grip on it? Did Jonathan Allen, you know what should have happened? The whole Redskins line should have collapsed on the Cowboys as soon as he wiggled the football, but nobody did. And when he came set and stayed solid set, all of a sudden, a second-year player from Alabama named Jonathan Allen jumped. And you know why he jumped? Because he just jumped the gun. He just screwed up and overreacted and dived across the line trying to block the field goal, and he was flat out off sides. It should have been -5 on Washington. It should have gone down to a 42-yard field goal, which my kicker would have made from 42 if he hit the very same field goal he hit from 52. It hooks inside the left upright.
Yeah.
It's a robbery. It's a flat-out robbery, and
all coaches
it makes me
give
sick.
the referees
Think about
heads
this.
up about
So
situations.
the Redskin coaches are taking credit for this.
They don't need to take credit. They can't make the call. They're just making them aware. Everybody goes into a game when the referees come in there and the coaches and the refs have their conversation. Everyone says, okay, hey, this player does this right here. They're questionable with doing this right here. This tackle jumps the ball like a half second before it's snapped.
All right.
All that. This guy holds, but he does it tricky. He holds with his inside hand on your inside of your shoulder pad. Everybody does that. Yes. I get held more than anybody in the world, and they never called it. It don't matter. It's up to what they feel that it is at that point in time. Right then and there, like you said, they were looking for it. Maybe he didn't. Like I trolled you yesterday, I'm not gonna lie. Okay. He did set it and spin it and get ready and then didn't move. Everybody, like, that's the first thing they tell you. This snapper has a pre-movement, like, don't jump on this.
But every snapper has a pre-movement. They all do it. They all get a little grip.
If the ref calls it and the officials agree with it, the head of the officials agree with it, what is it?
You know what?
It is what
wait
it is.
a second. If you'd called it in the first quarter, I'd say, okay, this is the game. The game's on the line.
I just want to point out, in all my years of watching you, Skip, I swear, I think this is the reddest I've ever seen your face.
And I like it. Furious.
Listen,
it cost me a game. We would be in first place.
I agree. I don't think referees should be dictating U.S. Open finals. I don't think that should have made that call. I do think the Redskins. Listen, when I coached my son's 11-year-old flag football team to a championship, I worked those refs all game, and finally got the call. But I don't think that call should be made at the end of the game, especially when it's a guy who's doing the same thing, play after play, year after year.
Sitting back looking at it after I got a good chance to look at it, yeah, that call shouldn't have been made. Okay. But I just love to see you red and hot.
But
I mean, crazy with nuts.
Okay, this is what drives me nuts. Look, if he had gone to wiggle the ball to get his grip, get set, if he's wiggling and the whole line caves in on Dallas, then I got it. Then you got me, because then the flags are going to fly and they say, oh, you're wiggling the football.
Well, they give you that. Once you set one hand on it and then you go to get the other one, you have a chance to get set with your second hand. That's what he did.
Okay, that's
and then
fine.
You don't move.
But do you think the Redskin coaches coached the second-year defensive tackle?
No.
Oh, you jump. You jump by yourself.
I agree.
Really, just you?
No way.
I agree.
Are you kidding me?
No. I agree.
How can you make that call? And
he
then
happened to jump, and they, like I said, they did what every coach does.
Work them.
Right. You give them the pregame.
Then, of course, I have to watch Al Riveron, the director of officiating, tweet that it was an illegal snap. Yeah. No, it wasn't. It's what he's done for 400-plus snaps. The game is it's sitting on a...
They can't say they were wrong. It cost them the game.
Yeah, but here's what gets me. My team took over the fourth quarter of that game. And again, he made the fatal mistake that put them in a hole that they couldn't quite climb out of. But they were climbing. They were out. They had the momentum in the game.
We were always told never let the officials have control of the game. So
I got
what you do is you go out there and you play the other 3 quarters before that.
Like the oldest cliche in football.
You play the other 3 quarters before that, and you wouldn't have been in that position.
Okay, but they were in that position, and it was a bogus call.
Oh, well.
And even Tony Dungy, who's usually pretty mild-mannered on NBC on the Sunday night games, he went crazy about this and called it, and I quote him, a horrible call. And he said, we've looked at it multiple times, and I don't see a violation. I don't see any absurd movement of the football other than he just got his grip.
Was this against the Cowboys, or was this to actually get you to this? Do you think there was a conspiracy? Because I'm loving what I'm seeing. You, like, literally...
Oh, it's conspiracy for Skip.
They were like, we want to watch Skip on Undisputed on Wednesday and watch it go totally nuts.
It's just a robbery. You understand, I grew up in this rivalry, and it is one of the great rivalries. I know you guys had it with the Ravens, anybody in your division. But still, really Dallas, Washington, it runs deep. And again, my team has dominated them for a long stretch. Your guy now, Kirk Cousins, was 1-6 against Dallas.
Oh, yes.
And so it matters a little more to me. And Jay Gruden said after the game, all I care about is we beat Dallas. And it does. It's almost like his job hinges on he needs to beat Dallas. And if you lose that game, I don't care what your record is, you're going to be on the hot seat. And all of a sudden, his seat was getting real hot because the momentum belonged to Dallas. Let's just say, I know this is hypothetical, let's say Dallas wins the overtime coin toss, and they just take the ball and go down and score. I just felt like it was going that direction, like they finally had figured out how to move the football, what plays were working, and Dak had gotten in rhythm. He was a warrior. He banged up his knee and his left hand, and I think he got concussed, but they let him play.
Yeah.
I was shocked by that. So he's just battling his guts out. You got him on the ropes. All you got to do is close the deal. What was it, 23-all with the field goal. And
More aggressive play calling could help too, made a shorter field goal, but go ahead.
Okay, but you know what? I think they did call aggressive plays. I think he took the underneath routes twice. They called pass plays, and there were receivers going deeper, running deeper routes. But they got in position to do what you have to do to close the deal to get to overtime. So I don't have any problem with the play calling. At least they threw it. They didn't run it 3 straight times.
Well, they couldn't run it. They wouldn't run it. You say Zeke, what, at 15,
Well, he wasn't.
33,
They ran
so
the
couldn't
last
open the
play
hole.
to set up the field goal. I think he got 6 yards. So, and that was like a great run for him. So they're home, and the kicker's been very consistent. But all of a sudden, you push him back from 47. It should have been 42, but you push him back to 52, and it just hooked just enough to hit the left upright. And it's not about me. I still think it's about Jerry Jones. I just think anything that could go against the Cowboys that has to come from above. Jerry's not going to get
He's
a break.
brought it on himself.
He has.
He's brought it on himself. It's
no,
not like
he's
Jerry's
taken
a
on the
victim
league
here.
too many times.
Yeah, sorry, Jerry.
You know?
Sorry.
Right. But you'd love to have him as an owner.
No, we don't like his type in New York City. We're good. You keep him where he is. We're fine with that.
Oh, that penalty call may give you nightmares, Skip. I'm sorry.
And they're taking credit. I was okay. I let it go.
If I was
Let
a
it
good list, that's something to be proud of. We worked the refs. We warned the
You lose
refs.
sleep over this,
You know,
huh?
well, I did, but it's Jay Gruden wanting some job security because he didn't have much coming in, so now he's got to take credit for I set this up.
I have
Yeah,
no
you
problem
can't
with that.
take credit.
I would be told, like, that's elation. He mentioned it early, worked them. He worked them when they were on defense. He goes, yo, later on, I'm reminding you. And then when it was there.
Yeah, and we're going to cost Dallas this game. Way to go.
He did it.
Yeah, way to
James
go.
Michael, come back
Congratulations.
later. You successfully got him going.
Nuts.
Always a good time. Back to the Lakers. Is Luke Walton already on the hot seat here in LA? We'll discuss next.
No mercy.
Look who's back. Chris Broussard, Rob Parker joining the conversation. Thanks for being here today.
You know what, Skip? It will be unbelievable for Chris to be wrong on television in the morning and then in the afternoon on our radio show. So he'll be wrong twice.
Oh, boy.
Partners.
That's my radio partner, Chris
The
Broussard.
odd couple. We're odd because I'm right and he's wrong.
Oh, is that it?
Interesting. I've heard that before here. All right, let's get back to the NBA. Even with LeBron on the team, the Lakers are a disappointing 0-3 to start the season, and it's apparently making Luke Walton's coaching seat very hot. According to OddsShark, Walton is the favorite to be the first head coach to get fired this season. All right, Skip, will he be the first?
He will be the first, and this is just my gut feeling. I don't have anything to go on, no inside info. I don't think he makes it through the season. But I did say before the season, this basketball team as assembled, and you got your issues with it, it is simply the hardest team to coach in all my years of covering the NBA. I have no idea how he's going to work through all the rotation problems he's having to work through. And he got a break with the brawl and the suspensions because it sort of clarified the rotation because it took away Rondo, it took away Brandon Ingram. And when they come back, the problems will start up again. I think the mountain is even higher to climb than LeBron even imagined. And we talked earlier, boy, New Orleans looks really good. Denver looks really good. And the Clippers are interesting to me and are going to take pounds of flesh from a lot of Western Conference opponents and might be vying for that 8 spot before it's all over. So all of a sudden, who's the scapegoat here if it goes a little south or if it's just sort of a 500 team as you wobble along into February, March? Somebody's got to go. Somebody has to take the blame. And to me, even though I know Jeannie Buss really loves Luke, I think she loves him personally. Just he's fun to be around. He's a great guy. You've been around him. He's a really good-hearted guy. Does Magic love him? I think he likes Luke. Does LeBron love Luke? Well, he has no reason to love Luke. So again, LeBron can be difficult to coach, and Brian Shaw is sitting right there. And I have high respect for Brian Shaw. And he got stuck in a bad situation in Denver, and he coached for parts of 2 seasons, and it did not go well. But he is highly regarded, and it would be a very easy segue to move him over one spot to another seat if they felt like they needed to jumpstart in March to make a playoff run, just to maybe make the playoffs. It would make sense that the odd man out and the guy with the odds to be the first to go, it would be Luke Walton. So I've thought that from the start. I thought this is the wrong place, the wrong time for Luke.
So even when you picked them to, 47 wins, 7 seed, you thought it would be without Luke? Like he
I
still
just
would
thought
get
it was
fired.
going to be really different. I didn't know then until, I know we're only 3 games in and it's early, but I'm seeing the problems manifest themselves as you have that are even worse than I thought they're going to be for the Lakers. But the other thing that's just shocking me is the West is even deeper than I thought. And I told you, I didn't have San Antonio in the playoffs. They're still pretty good.
I mean,
They're
they got
pretty
2
good.
All-Stars,
They
right?
got 2 All-Stars.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought the same thing, that the Spurs weren't going to be that good and they would be the team that fell out. I'm not convinced of that. And I'm with you on Luke being the guy for a couple of reasons. The slow start hurts a lot because the Western Conference, you could find yourself, everybody got them, they're going to be a top 4 seed and have home court. If you're in the bottom 4 and you got to play Golden State or Houston in the first round, you can get knocked out in the first round. And people can't just say, well, they'll be fine. All 3 of those games, they had a chance to win.
They did.
They were in all 3 of those games. And then they go, well, those are the playoff teams. No, LeBron came here to be different, change what they did a year ago. With the kids last year, they didn't win. And I know they beat Golden State once or something. But it's totally different this year from the standpoint that they're not looking at, when you play the Lakers now with LeBron, it's a big game. It's not they got some kids and you might want to take the night off or not play as hard. It's totally different. And the same thing, okay, I get it. Jeannie Buss loves Luke Walton. And Dan Gilbert loved David Blatt. Wasn't that his hire?
Right.
That was his hire, right?
Yep.
And ultimately, LeBron and results, and the same thing, Pelinka and Magic, they didn't hire him. They could like him, Skip, and you know that, and think highly of him, but they didn't. He's not their
They're not
guy.
connected to him.
Yes, they're not. So it would be easier, Chris, to me, if things get really slow start. Like if they don't beat the Suns tonight, that's a huge
But
game.
you're not saying if they don't beat the Suns, he could get fired.
No, not get fired, but to be 0-4 and lose to the Suns, that would send an alarm to me.
Well, if it really goes south, then and they need a scapegoat, he's the obvious choice. I mean, it's not going to be Pelinka or Magic. It's not going to be LeBron or maybe even some of the other young players. It's going to be Luke Walton. He should clearly be favored because, first of all, if you look around the league, the only other guys I could see getting fired maybe during the season are like Scotty Brooks and maybe Thibodeau. And I'm not even, again, it's not inside information. I'm not saying they're on the hot seat, but there are a lot of first-year coaches. There are a lot of established coaches that you just know aren't getting fired.
And there are teams that just aren't that good, you know what I mean? So there's no expectation.
Yes, exactly.
And they're coaching those teams.
So the one thing that can, because you're right, Skip, I mean, it's tough to have 10 guys or 8 or 9 that are on the same level. Because then you got to decide which ones do I play, who sits tonight, and guys get upset and all that. The only thing that I believe that can save Luke, or the strongest chance of him being saved, is if Magic and Pelinka really empower him. They give him the authority, the security to coach the team and to coach LeBron.
Yep.
And if Luke has the guts to coach LeBron and tell him, you got to do this, you got to do that.
Good luck.
Well, if the front office empowers him to do it, he can do it. If he's got the fortitude.
They didn't bring LeBron here.
No, LeBron's locked up for 4 years.
No, I know, but they didn't bring him here for him to be upset.
What's he going to do?
What? I mean,
if he's upset, what's he going to do? If he pouts, it makes him look bad. Like, that's the thing, a player, like, if LeBron doesn't go out and play well, it's just going to make him look bad because he's upset. Like, that's what happened. They wanted Eric Spoelstra out of there.
Yeah, but he lost that fight with Pat Riley.
And Pat Riley empowered him. And look, LeBron got 2 of his 3 rings in Miami under Spoelstra, a guy that had the authority to coach him.
Okay, but what happened? The report was from ESPN that LeBron went up to Pat's office and said, would you? So he had an option. He had Pat Riley, who was
Sitting there.
a highly
Yeah,
successful former head coach. And Pat said, I'm done.
If you're
I'm not
going to
do
win, it's going to be with this guy. And that's what I think Magic and Pelinka, if they like
But the difference
need
is
to tell LeBron and just maybe look. I'm not saying Luke,
Spoelstra was Riley's guy though. He's not their guy.
I know.
Handpicked him.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying that's
Handpicked
his
him.
only chance of coaching this team is if they give him the power to do it. If he has to tippy-toe and walk on eggshells around LeBron, then he's not going to be able to do it. It's as simple as that.
Okay, so everything's misfit to me because where the glut it manifests itself first is at point guard, because the best point guard on the team by far is LeBron James. He was born to play that position. He's still the best passer in basketball. He's even in the first 3 games. He's had at least one pass a night where I just sat back and said, that's just too good,
The other
man.
night, yeah.
That's
Oh,
just
absolutely.
rare. That's like gift. Like, thank you, God. That's what that is. And yet, he says he wants to play off the ball. Then you have a young point guard who's still trying to prove himself that you're out on and you're kind of whatever on Lonzo. And then Rondo, who at Portland, he was the driving force of the team. And then he wasn't so good against Houston. But again, he's a very valuable piece. And I think LeBron trusts him a little more, even though I think LeBron has fun playing with Lonzo, playing off Lonzo. I like the way they looked the other night. And Lonzo is before your very eyes. He's becoming an adult. You can see it in his body and in his body language. So he deserves minutes. Rondo deserves minutes. And then the big preseason theme was, we love Brandon Ingram bringing the ball up the court. You do?
When he played point
Really?
guard last
Okay.
year, do you remember that stretch?
Okay.
He played pretty well.
All right.
That's part of the thing.
So
Everybody's trying to bring the ball up.
So how are you going to? There's one basketball,
Right.
and there are only 5 spots on the floor for 5 players, and all of a sudden the various Lances and Michael Beasleys are going to say, it'll happen. It'll start. You're going to start hearing the murmurs out of the locker room. We deserve more minutes.
But here's the thing, Skip, that I don't understand. If LeBron kind of figured that this was going to be a year that they were going to see what's going on and like give up the year like they couldn't win, then Lonzo Ball should have been your starting point guard. You got to play the young guy to see if there's anything there. Like Rondo
I
to
think
me
part of it
is more
was
like
the
a
injury,
stopgap.
The injury too,
Okay.
But even
derailed
once
him.
he's playing,
Like
though,
he may keep it. Maybe when if he plays well. See,
I'm
I
not
think
convinced.
If LeBron and Lonzo, if LeBron's on the ball, he can play with Lonzo. The way Lonzo's been shooting.
Well, if he's knocking down
gonna
those
keep
threes,
shooting
well-
threes. And even though Lonzo's a point guard, he gets rid of the ball quick. So he's
Very
not.
quick,
Yeah,
like
he's not
too
a ball.
quick.
Right. Yeah, I agree. But
Yeah.
but that can make him, used to playing off the ball. Whereas Rondo, who I think right now is probably better than Lonzo, his game, if LeBron's handling the ball, I don't know what you do with Rondo, right? Because he's not a shooter. So they got some. The thing that could save Luke as well is they're viewing this year as an experiment. Like for as much as we've killed the roster, they're looking at it like it's 1 year.
Yeah, but
they're a bunch of 1 year
I'm-
deals,
I'm
and if it
not-
goes south, okay.
I don't think
regroup
people
in
are
the
going to
summer.
buy into that for the Lakers. If they fall and they're the 7th or 8th seed and get knocked out in the first round,
Okay.
this will be looked at as a
here's
failure.
the point. Here's the difference. There's no pressure to win the championship this year, but trust me, there's huge pressure to make the playoffs, right? So if it starts to look like it's dicey that they're going to make the playoffs, that's when Luke's going to get in trouble. And the final piece to this puzzle we have not mentioned, and it's still shocking to me because I guess it's early, but we have heard nothing lately from one LeVar Ball. And if Lonzo gets beaten out by Rondo, and Rondo's getting the bulk of the minutes every night, and he's the starting point guard, after a while, you just know it. It may take a month, it may take 6 weeks, I don't know, but LeVar is going to go off on this situation.
You know what, Skip? I think Magic got to him. We haven't heard.
Because it's amazing.
He's
quiet.
I forgot about him until last night. I was thinking, whatever happened to LeVar Ball? I don't know.
I haven't minded it though. I don't know.
No,
It's kinda
outside is nice.
and quiet.
I don't mind LeVar though.
Oh,
I don't
boy.
either. I like him. I miss you, LeVar. Where are you?
Oh,
Come out of
God.
hiding.
Okay, well, we did just invite him. We're going to switch gears. Eric Reid lost his case against an NFL team yesterday, and we are going to discuss what happened next.
No mercy.
An independent arbitrator denied Panther safety Eric Reid's grievance against the Bengals yesterday. The grievance was filed by the NFLPA after Bengals owner Mike Brown reportedly asked if Reid would continue kneeling during the national anthem. Reid came in for a free agent visit but was not signed by Cincinnati. The arbitrator ruled the Bengals were within their rights to ask if Reid would continue to kneel. Chris Broussard and Rob Parker are still with us. And, I'm going to start with you on this, Rob. Do you agree, disagree with the decision?
I think the arbitrator's wrong. I really don't believe that should be a question that should have been asked, only from this standpoint, if you go by the CBA, which doesn't say you have to or you have to or stand or anything like that. So because it's not there, that shouldn't have been asked. That's a question to me that sets up a case where an owner or a team can discriminate, can use that. That's why there are laws about certain questions that you can't ask people, religious, sexual, all kinds of preferences, all kinds of stuff, so that they can't use that against you in hiring. Can you play football? Look at if you want to look at his background, do a background check, criminal record, you know what I mean, that you're not letting some crazy man into your organization that's going to do harm to other people or whatever. I get all that. I think that question is totally out of bounds, and, I think the arbitrator's wrong on it and swung and missed. But we know that this, for whatever reason, this became such a hot-button issue, and it's jaded people. It really has made people look at people who are doing, because I always say, I get even the CBAs, but your rights as an American citizen should never be superseded. I don't believe it.
I agree with your premise, Rob. I support what Reid's doing. I didn't like him calling Malcolm Jenkins a sellout, but I support what he's doing. But when I look at the questions that the teams ask players at the combine, is your mom a prostitute or
that question's out of bounds, though.
Well, if
that question's out of bounds.
But they let them do it. They let these teams.
I wish somebody would ask me that question, even at a combine, at a job interview.
But throw that one out. I'm just saying, in general, they ask these guys all types of questions, and so if I'm an employer, and I think it's a fair question to ask. I think,
really do?
Yeah. I think I don't agree with it.
Because you would never be asked that question in any other circumstance.
But the law protects you from discriminating in hiring on race, color, national origin, religion, sex. It doesn't protect on, I would call this a political belief. And it doesn't protect you from that. This is kind of like, and it's a slippery slope, because I agree with you. You don't want people not hiring you based on your beliefs. However, if you're an NFL team and you act like say there's a player who's religious and he's known for proselytizing in the locker room, and you feel like that could disrupt my locker room.
Yeah, and
you don't want to hire him.
It's happened in this league.
Right, and you don't want to hire him. And I'm religious, but I get that. I get if a guy's a party animal, and we got enough party animals, or our guys are choir boys. Hold on. Let me finish. Our guys are choir boys. I don't want that to disrupt my locker room. And it's an owner's right to do that.
In a league filled with so many guys who have committed felons. I don't get that. I don't get that. This is the same team that has Joe Mixon on the team, who cracked a woman's face on video. This is the team.
I agree.
That's standing there asking Eric Reid whether or not you're going to kneel for the national anthem.
The question is it lawful? It's not. I agree with your feeling.
I just think that it's mixed up, and this is the issue I just have.
Well, and to your point, no coach beyond Marvin Lewis has taken more chances on bad actors than Marvin Lewis has over time. They've had a bunch of bad actors.
Look at the rap sheet.
And it's cost them in big games on the field because those bad actors have acted badly in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I want to restate my position. I believe with all my heart and soul in everything Colin Kaepernick has done, and he's had dramatic impact, I believe, on this country, and will go down in history as having had that impact. I believe in everything Eric Reid has done because he's done as much as Colin has, but he's not seen as the face of the movement. And I fear for him because I'm fearing his job is soon going to be in jeopardy, and he's going to be out of the league, and he's not going to have a big Nike deal to fall back on because he's not seen as the face.
But you know what, Skip? I don't think that bothers him.
Played well enough You don't think he's like.
Fortunately, they
he's
won
just
the
gonna stay
game
in
the other
league?
day.
Yeah.
He went a little over the edge during the game, and he took a cheap shot at Carson Wentz, and they yanked him in the second quarter for a while. Then he calmed back down, and he went in and he made a play, and I thought he intercepted a ball that should have ended the game, and the replay overturned it. It made me have a little conspiracy theory. Did they not want Eric Reid to be the hero of the game at the end of the game? Because he has his ball hand underneath the football all the way down on the carpet. It was an interception that Carson Wentz threw, but then fortunately for Eric Reid, on the next play, sack, fumble, game over. Carolina survives by scoring 21 points unanswered in the fourth quarter. So, again, on Monday's show, I was all for Eric Reid. I didn't mind him going up to Malcolm Jenkins before the game and expressing himself face to face, eye to eye with the Malcolm Jenkins. He believes with all his heart and soul, sold out with the coalition to the owners. And it smacked of that to me. I thought they just gave up. And they got a bunch of charity money that just got rerouted from breast cancer awareness and some military funding that was going on, and it just got rerouted over to.
And Skip, the history of our people, sadly,
I know.
is that's what always happens. Here's a check, you guys go away, and that's where that comes from. I'm with you.
The history of our people is also guys that are fighting for the same thing being pit against each other.
I get that.
And we can't get anything done because,
it didn't come across that way to me. It's just that coalition sold them out. And again, I loved what Eric Reid did. He just let his emotions carry onto the football field, and you can't do that. Okay, now back to this arbitration ruling. I understood it only because this is America, and Mike Brown, who owns and operates the Cincinnati Bengals, almost is a mom and pop type operation. It's the only one.
It is, Skip, straight up.
And he's just trying to protect his bottom line. So he's saying, in the end, he fears that Eric Reid kneeling would be bad for business in Cincinnati. It's a fairly, as you know, I
lived there.
Very
it's a very conservative.
Very
right?
conservative.
Okay?
Yeah.
So he's just saying, I don't need that. To your point about all the other kinds of the sort of threats to the locker room or whatever, he just said, he was very honest and up front. Are you going to kneel? Yes. Well, then thanks, but no thanks.
So why do you even interview him? I mean, why do you even bring him in?
They might not have known if he was
well,
going to kneel.
because he did it and he was very vocal. I'm just saying, to me, I wouldn't even bring a guy in if that's going to be the deal breaker. Because it shouldn't be. That shouldn't be the deal breaker.
I think Marvin Lewis would push to bring him in because he's a really good football player.
I think they wanted him.
Yeah.
All the football guys wanted him and didn't care.
So what if Eric Reid said in the meeting, okay, I won't do it, and then the first game he did it? Obviously got hired by the Panthers, and what did he do? He kneeled down because this is his true conviction, and I'd rather a guy do that.
I love that about him because he is fighting, man. He hasn't backed off 1 inch.
Because he really believes in it. It's not a stunt. And that's what people need to understand. He's willing to give up his career.
Yeah, he didn't drop his grievance against the league. Now, again, Colin's got a lawsuit against the collusion lawsuit, but Eric's still fighting. And I keep fearing for him, like, you better keep playing at a pretty high level because you're at high risk to be without a job. And if he gets cut by the Panthers, I don't think he's going to get another shot.
I think maybe this season he'll have to play really well. Mm-hmm. And if he plays well, hopefully he stays. The real issue, I think, is the fact that the league is willing to have, and even the Bengals, these guys, like you mentioned, Joe Mixon, domestic violence, and all types of issues.
Vontez Burfict.
Right.
Check him out.
And you won't have a guy that's standing up
peaceful
for other Americans, American citizens.
Okay.
That's the issue. I agree with you. I think it's their right to ask, but the issue is, why do you hold this guy as worse off than some of these fellas?
If I was in a job interview and just questions, I don't think I would want to work at that place. Do you know what I mean? I just wouldn't for me. Money, I get it. People you got to have a job, you have to feed your family and all that other stuff. But there are people who are on principle, and principle matters. It's not always taking the money, even though you know that what they're doing is wrong to me. And I respect people who are willing to push back and stand up for that. And Eric Reid is one of those guys, man. I'm telling you, I agree, Skip. He might not be the face of it, but that guy is a real backbone who's living on his own principles, who's flying without a net, understands that this could really affect him and shorten his career. And I bet you this, he would never regret it, because what he believes in his heart is that he's doing the right thing. And nobody can change your mind about football, about how much money you have. Yep. When you believe in something like that strongly, nothing else matters. And that's why I think Eric Reid is. That's why I respect what he's been able to do and fight through it.
The fact that we're saying that he has to exceed expectations to stay in this league
When there are all
because
kinds
of
of bad
this,
players, right?
that's shocking. And unfortunately, that's still the storyline that we keep talking about. So we'll have to see what's next. All right, Chris, thank you.
Chris, I'll
Good
see you
stuff
on the
today.
radio. And hopefully you'll be better on the
You
radio.
guys going to make it through radio? All right. Joel Klatt is going to join us next to talk some college football. Jim Harbaugh, Michigan, are they on the way to the playoff? Hey, they're playing with something special.
Really?
Skip likes it. That's
What?
Yep. Here we go.
No mercy.
Jim Harbaugh's Michigan Wolverines have moved into the top 5 after 7 straight wins. On Saturday, they blew out Michigan State. Joel and I were there for that one. The second time Harbaugh has beaten the Spartans, they control their own destiny for a trip to the Big Ten championship game, but they still have to face Penn State next week and end the season in Columbus against the Buckeyes. Rob Parker still with us, Joel Klatt joining us for this one. Now, we have been around this team a fair amount, which is exciting, and that helps, but Skip, since you love talking about Michigan,
I do.
I'm going to start with you on this one.
Can't wait.
What are you thinking about Michigan, about Jim Harbaugh, and about this team and their chances?
I told the great Joel Klatt before this season started that I thought there was one team that could beat Alabama. And the more I watch that team, the more I believe what I told you before the season started. I think Michigan has all the components to beat Alabama. And I know Alabama with Tua at quarterback is flying as high as any college team I can remember in all my years of watching college football. They are dominating in ways I've never seen before. It's over after 5 minutes. Every game he throws 3 touchdown passes and it's just over. Michigan right now is number 1 in pass defense in college football. I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
Third straight year.
Yep, third straight year. Don Brown is the best defensive coordinator in college football, and he just proves it year after year. I can just show you without going into gory detail the last 5 years. You can just go back. Yep. 1, 2, 3.
Just haven't turned into any national championships.
All right, okay. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying.
But not only are they first in pass defense, they're first in overall yards allowed. So it's a really good defense that can do lots of things. It can cover and it can really rush the passer.
Yep.
The X factor right now is Rajon because I don't know what's going on with him because they're very cryptic. You try to get some injury information and it's hard to get it out of them. And I don't know if he's pulling a Bosa's, if he's just saying I'm a top 5 pick and I'm shutting it down for the rest of the year. I hope not, because he's a top 5. He's a stud.
Sure.
But still, with Chase Winovich coming from the other side, and they have a collection of rushers, they can really get after the quarterback, right?
No.
And finally, Rob Parker, I told you before the season started, they have a quarterback. I'm not saying he's Tua, but he's pretty good. And he's savvy, and he's clever, and he can make plays with his arm and his legs. He doesn't have a big arm, but he can be pretty accurate, and he's just your basic college playmaker. He's good enough to go win a game, especially when you have that guy behind you hammering the football. Higdon can really, as a college running back, and I think Mel Kiper and Todd McShay on ESPN are starting to really love him, that he can get you 100+ yards a game.
Yeah.
So
6 straight.
Okay, 6 straight games. So can they ball control you? Can they win the clock? Because in time of possession, they're 7th in the country right now. And they started off, I predicted that day. I said, they're going to have a hard time beating Notre Dame on opening night because that's the wrong place, wrong time. And they lost 24-17. But ever since then, they just keep going like this. Again, they got to close the deal, Penn State, and then you have to go to Ohio State. Ohio State's a little bit in shambles right now.
That's true.
So we'll see. But if they can get through it, will they get a shot at Alabama? I would just give them the best shot of anybody I've seen so far at playing Alabama.
Interesting. Okay, a lot of things you said were absolutely true. Absolutely true about Michigan. Michigan, I think, is headed towards a Big Ten championship this year, at least a berth in that game, in particular with what's going on at Ohio State and their struggles on the offensive side and their offensive line not being able to run the football, their inability to get it in the end zone once they're in the red zone, and then Ohio State's inability to play great defense, which has been kind of an interesting anomaly this year.
And it just feels troubled to me.
It does.
The program.
You're right, 100%. Now, from the Michigan side, the defense is spectacular, and save for one quarter of this entire season, they've played like a top 4 team. However, I will disagree with you on the best or biggest threat to Alabama. And the reason is because this Alabama is just different. They're just different because of Tua, like you mentioned. This out-of-this-world offense that they're playing right now is incredible. Number one scoring offense in the country, number one total offense in the country at Alabama. This quarterback is playing some of the best football I've ever seen. 25 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Because of that, you're going to have another quarterback go out there and go toe-to-toe. At some point, you're going to have a guy go out there and go toe-to-toe with Tua. And guess what? I don't know if Shea Patterson's that guy. He's 78th right now in the country in passing. That's just behind a guy that got benched at TCU named Sean Robinson, who's probably going to get benched for a guy named Collins moving forward with TCU at Gary Patterson. Shea plays too safe. I think that Jim Harbaugh is in Shea Patterson's ear too much, telling him to play it too safe. I said it during the broadcast. I know you were watching. He needs to give those big wide receivers a chance to make a play down the field. If he does that, maybe you're on to something. Yes, when he did, they made plays. Donovan Peoples-Jones as well as Nico Collins caught touchdown passes in last week's game.
And by the way, Tariq Black, I don't know what his situation is, but
he participated. He's going to be back. I think Tariq Black is going to be back for the rest of the year, which is a huge boost to their
really good. He's a high draft.
Probably their best offensive player moving forward. Now, here's why I'm so shocked at your take. Your team is the one that could pose the biggest threat. Your guy. Oklahoma and Kyler Murray is the team that could pose the biggest threat.
Would do to my defense? I know we changed
but here's the point. Here's the point. They're used to it. You see, if you get Michigan into a game in which they've got to score 50, I think they would just freak out. I don't think that they can handle that. I don't think Shea can handle that.
You can't win a game like that.
You get Oklahoma into like, hey, what do you want to do? It's first one to 60 wins. They're like, here we go. This is a normal Saturday for me. So I think it's Oklahoma for that reason.
My problem still is I'm just not. I know all the numbers. I just can't until they beat Penn State and Ohio State.
Until recently, you worked in Detroit.
I worked in Detroit and for 20 some odd years.
You've seen the letdown.
I've seen the letdown. It's happened over and over, and people get all excited about Michigan. It doesn't. Now, Jim Harbaugh, the time has come, right? We all know the time has come.
I agree. You were right.
Now you have this team in this position. Now you just, as you just said, finish the job. Some of the games that they've won, and I know they dominated Michigan State. Michigan State couldn't even move the ball. I mean, it was
in large part due to that defense.
Well, no, I get it, but I'm just saying when I look at Michigan and who they've beaten, I'm not overly impressed or say they've been world beaters. So you have to play who's on the schedule. They've done a good job. They've done everything they need. But it still comes down to me. Will Jim Harbaugh finally get the job done at Michigan and turn this around that they pay him handsomely for?
They do.
And that people expected him in year 4, right? They thought it would be year 3. But year 4 to finally make that. And he does have his quarterback.
Here's what I don't understand. There's this sentiment like we're waiting for Harbaugh to do something. He's doing it. That's the thing that I don't understand. If you take a look at the 7 years between Lloyd Carr and Jim Harbaugh, those 7 years at Michigan, do you know that their record was the same as Northwestern, Oregon State? I mean, they were basically a 500 team. What he has them now is that in 2 of the last 4 years, they've been in the top 5 in the college football playoff ranking. I believe they're headed there this year, in particular with the win over Penn State, if they can get that next week after the bye this week. He is doing great things. He's the greatest heel in all of college football. People love to hate on him. They're like, well, when is he going to do something?
No, but Joe,
he's doing
Joe,
it.
You know
what do you
why?
mean, when is he going to do something?
But this is because for all the glamour and all the historic, props that Michigan gets as a football program, it has one mythical national championship that was shared in 1997. I'm not talking about the ones that were played when they used a pig instead of a football. I'm talking about
more the modern college.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Modern college. And so people look at Michigan and all the history and the great coaches and all the great players that have come there, but they've got this one national championship with Lloyd Carr that they shared, and that's the only one that they have. What they share with Wisconsin? Nebraska. That's the only one that they have. And people want a national championship at Michigan. That's what they want.
I don't know if that'll happen.
Well, but that's what they want. And they thought that they brought back the savior in Jim Harbaugh, that he was going to deliver it. And I think that that's why people are still waiting. As happy as Michigan fans are, they want to see if the other shoe drops. And if they lose to Penn State, Or Ohio State, they'll go up. Here we go again.
The
We've
Ohio
seen
State
this
one
movie.
is the major one.
Jim Harbaugh's problem is he wants this worse than anyone. He wants this to happen to a fault. He's obviously a Michigan man, and he coaches his quarterback effectively with his hands around the quarterback's throat. And you played that position in college, and you know that you have to have some room to breathe a little bit. And I just think he wants to, because he played the position at a very high level. He was a very good pro quarterback and was one throw away from getting to a Super Bowl. So he's coaching it the way he wanted it played, and sometimes he's forcing his will on a quarterback that just can't cope with it. And he crushed the wills of a bunch of quarterbacks the last 2 years. And Shea Patterson is just kind of gutsy and cocky enough to stand up to it and him. And yet, at some point in these big games that are coming up, you have to let Shea operate a little
true.
bit.
That's
because
100% true.
He is kind of a rambling, gambling little, he's just a little playmaker. And he'll try something every once in a while. Maybe he shouldn't try and get away with it.
I think the point you're making is so true. In particular, once Shea leaves the pocket, let Shea be Shea.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I want my quarterback looking downfield, taking a shot. If I've got a height advantage, put it up tall for a guy like Nico Collins who can go up the ladder and get it. He plays it too safe once he breaks the pocket. He's looking to throw it away. He's looking to run it. I think he's playing pretty well when he's inside of the structure of the offense, but as soon as it breaks down, let him be a playmaker, like Baker, the playmaker, Mayfield. Let him be a playmaker on the outside.
So did you have him, Skip, going to the national championship
I
game?
picked him before the year started.
So you're
I did, and I'm
sticking
hanging
with it.
in. Yeah.
Okay.
You did
I like
say it
him.
early on.
I did.
We were talking about hot
that's a good
seat
pick
for
there.
Harbaugh.
But it's like
Why are you just jumping off Oklahoma? I mean, Kyler is playing unbelievable.
Well, they lost to Texas, so that's going to hurt. And
they could get a rematch with Texas, though.
Yeah.
They could
True.
they could avenge that loss.
They outscored TCU, but half the time I was just going like this because it's just hard to watch, man.
Come on.
And
Come on, they
seriously,
dominated that
Do you
game.
know what Tua would do to this defense? He might put up 100.
Alabama's
you might have to
defense-
win.
I mean, if Oklahoma played Alabama, it might be like 62-60.
Yeah, might. I love Kyle.
Sound like an NFL game.
The good news, Skip,
Mahomes and
Am I
Carr.
right?
Joel and I are going back to Oklahoma this weekend.
That's right. We got him this
We'll
week.
get
So
some
that's why you're
research
beating that
in.
drum.
Well, I mean, no, I believe it. I'm Kyler.
Kyler is still in the Heisman race.
You think I have an agenda?
Yeah, a little bit. but
Never.
It's okay.
Who would have an agenda around here?
Book of Truth.
Joel and Rob.
Let me see. Is that the Bible?
really well
What is
organized.
It is the
Thank
college
you
football
for
Bible.
coming
You
in.
bet.
I enjoyed that one. All right, coming up next. So Rajon Rondo, did he actually spit on CP3 on purpose? There is more to this. We'll tell you next.
No mercy.
Back to the NBA we go. Rajon Rondo and Chris Paul are currently serving suspensions for their roles in Saturday's fight. CP3 claims Rondo spit on him, but Rondo has continued to deny it. He told ESPN yesterday, "I had a mouthpiece in my mouth and I was exasperated because I was about to tell him to get the bleep out of here." We're joined once again by Michael Rappaport, James Harrison. We're mixing it up today, and that spit, or was it a spit, has been the talk of the town. James.
That was spit. That
was
was no
spit?
question about it. Yes, that was spit. You can see as he's like standing there turning back to go this way, it's like just drizzle spit down. He's not trying to like shoot it straight to his face, but he's trying to spit on him, and he came through with spitting on him.
Okay.
And the reason, Chris took so long to react is like, it's that mist of like, did he really just spit on me? And as he looked away, yeah, you just spit on me. That's why you're looking away. You're trying to make like you didn't do it on purpose, and you did. So it's no question in my mind, he spit on him.
So if at the end of a play, some offensive tackle had done that to you, you react by doing what?
I'm giving him like 3-piece. I'm trying to pop his helmet off. Game got to stop, and I probably got to see him like after the game because that's the most disrespectful
It
thing you
is.
could ever do to anybody.
Absolutely. You would be fined, you would be suspended, but
I
you're
would take
good.
all that. I'm good with that. Yeah. Games, checks, all that. That's about respect to me.
Listen, if we see the spit, you can't acquit. I'll say it again. If you see the spit, we can't acquit.
Ooh, I like
He spit on him. If it was an accident, then he could have even said it was an accident. I talk, people, you talk trash, whatever. Sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
He spit on him. And, listen, the thing is now, first of all, we never hear from Rondo. Now we've heard him talking and saying all these things for all his time in the league. if Chris Paul's this, Chris Paul's that, back it up with some facts. You spit on the dude. I just don't like all this chirping and complaining and all that stuff. Like, why is Chris Paul a bad teammate? You spit on the dude, take responsibility, or say, I did spit on him, it was an accident. I would never do that, yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm. So, I believe that Rondo, bless you, that he spat at him, but he didn't actually connect with the spit
he
on
connected.
him.
You can
I don't think it
you
went
catch
on
the
him.
miss. He catch the miss of the.
I thought it just sort of
No,
dropped into nowhere.
that's that he's talking to the ref. He's going sideways like this, and I'm like, oh, you really did? You just spit on
Took him a second.
And you can't tell me, even though Rondo continues to vehemently deny it, as does his coach and a lot of his teammates, but it was intentional spit.
Yes.
They were little spits, but they were spits nonetheless. I don't think they landed like you say. Maybe
spit on somebody.
What's that?
You can't little spit on somebody. Like you said, talking and
it's just-
a ball come out. Yeah.
Okay.
He didn't Tupac him. Remember when
No,
Tupac
I-
spit at the roof? No, he didn't
do that.
Yeah, he didn't
Okay,
Tupac him.
I got it. But Rondo said, how do you spit with a mouthpiece in? Well, you can spit with a mouthpiece
Yes.
in. You can do it.
Easy.
Okay? So he wanted to try to get away with little spits
Yep.
to me, and it's just like a little machine gun, just little, they're just little spits. And I don't think he really intended for them to land, but he just wanted the message sent, this is what I think of you.
Still not okay.
It's not okay. And yet, Chris Paul, given his reputation for just snapping and cheap-shotting opponents, he actually exercised pretty great restraint because his reaction was just like, I'm just going to poke him in the face. Like, and then Rondo loses it and throws a left, which I don't think quite landed. And then Chris Paul actually ended the fight with one good uppercut, and I think it drew blood.
He got a left. The left. See, y'all seen the uppercut coming.
They were
He
weak
also
left.
caught a left. The left caught his lip. That's what got the bleed.
The Chris
going.
Paul left.
They were both flailed. Like you need leverage when you throw a punch. You got to have leverage. Joe Louis, he had a great short right hand. But the thing is like the spitting, the not spitting, and all this stuff. It's just you can't spit on anybody and expect this to happen this way. And whether or not Chris Paul, is a bad teammate and everybody's saying these things, it doesn't. I just don't know what this is turning into now. And it's like this. It's like the Zapruder tape with JFK. Like there's this angle, there's that angle. Where is this going to go? You can't spit on.
Can't spit on nobody.
You can't spit. I don't think Chris Paul should be suspended. Yeah. And also, right after the play happened, you heard, I believe it was Doris Burke say, he said he spit on me. So it wasn't like this was a day later.
Right.
He said immediately.
You see, as he's going to put his finger in his face, he's like, did you just spit on? You can see the words coming out of his mouth. So, yeah. And even after it happened, just for 4 or 5 seconds, they just letting him go. Melo sitting there, Bron sitting there, they're like, what they just letting him go for then they finally grabbed him. So, I know it's no feeling. He spit on him.
And if Rondo, like I said, if Rondo didn't do it intentionally, be like, yeah, I did, and I could, apologize about the spitting, but to not take ownership of spitting, this will go down in history as one of the dirtiest things, the most Evander Holyfield's ear biting, Manny Machado's kicking, when that lunatic Terry O'Reilly from the Boston Bruins went into the stands in Madison Square Garden and not only beat the fan, but he beat him with his own shoe, Skip. That's not okay. This will go on with one of those dirty moments.
Mm-hmm. So, in your league, the classic spitting incident occurred on Monday Night Football a little before your time, but it was Bill Romanowski.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know Romo at all?
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And he spat in the face of J.J. Stokes. And Shannon Sharpe, whose seat you're sitting in right now, was sort of the leader of that team. And they had to have, to quote him, a come to Jesus meeting over that because they were not happy with their teammate, Bill Romanowski, but he used that tactic as a distraction, I'm going to get under your skin.
That's not a distraction.
Well,
that's disrespectful.
Okay, but
the distraction is talking about you.
Romanowski was a really good football player who won a whole bunch of rings.
He was nuts.
He was just a little out there, but again, he could back it up. If you wanted to fight, he would fight you. So he was ready to fight if you wanted to fight. And he thought J.J. Stokes was a soft player, so he's just going to try to get under his skin. But it's a line, as you say, Nobody crosses that line and
Yes.
gets away with it. So did you ever see any spitting at all in your career? Did you encounter it anywhere?
I haven't encountered anybody that's actually just went and just spat on somebody.
No.
Like you had a situation where a guy may be talking and like you see spit fly from
Okay.
his mouth, but
That's
it's not a, or like he
So
did.
you never encountered it in a single game?
Who's going to spit on him?
No.
Like, who's
You
going to
don't-
spit?
You can step on my hand like you accidentally trying to get up and you step. Okay, I could take that, but you cannot spit on me and think the game is going to continue. Game's about to stop.
So you never saw it in your whole career?
I haven't seen anyone
Okay.
spit on someone.
And that's why Chris Paul said, in all my career, which is getting lengthy, he said, this has never happened to me. Yet the irony that we talked about earlier in the show is that, to your point about being a horrible teammate, Chris Paul's image has gone unscathed for years when, to me, he's the dirtiest player of his era. And the irony of this whole discussion is he's the victim now of the spitting, when in fact, a lot of players have been victimized by Chris Paul, many of them below the belt shots.
That's also bad.
So I know that doesn't really happen in your game, but again,
Yeah, it does.
that's close
Yeah, you
to,
can-
okay,
you can
but
do
that's
that.
that's not quite spitting on somebody, but it's close. It's in the ballpark.
It's the
somewhere.
same. It's the same thing. Below the belt shots.
No.
It-
Spitting is way worse than anything in the world. Like
Okay.
that's you can't top spitting.
You
can't. It's impossible.
like cheap shots.
I'll just spit on you right now.
But then
it's a
cheap-
fight.
Don't.
I agree, but cheap
Don't.
shots.
Right.
When you're
Don't.
playing sports, I get what you're saying, but cheap shots in the below the belt area and spitting, it's in the same.
No, not even close. Not even close. Spitting, dude, spitting, that is the most, I can't even imagine. If my child was to spit on someone, I would beat him like he stole something. That is the most disrespectful thing you could ever do to anybody.
Okay.
No, I
okay,
agree.
But wait a
I
second.
agree.
At the end of a closeout game, it's the Clippers versus the Memphis Grizzlies in Memphis, and the game is over and the series has been decided. And Chris Paul just snaps and loses it, as he is wont to do occasionally, despite his State Farm ads that make him out to
Make
be
him
the
out to be a
nicest
good guy.
guy ever. But he got a running start and hit Marc Gasol right in the groin area.
That's crazy to me.
Running start and just doubled him over with a punch to the groin. And I'm saying, what just happened? And guess what? Chris Paul is so respected by other players in the league because he's the president of the Players Association, that as he got thrown out of the game by Joey Crawford and left, this is like a minute before the buzzer, several of the Memphis Grizzlies ran after him and shook his hand
they
like
really?
nice series. And I thought they were first running after him to fight him because them is fighting words, man.
You can fight on that,
Yeah,
but it's
okay.
still not as disrespectful. as
Okay,
spitting
I
on
got
someone.
you.
That's-
I'm with you.
That's the ultimate.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I don't. Was it the end of the series that they were?
it ended.
I don't know. I mean, is this going to hurt his image? Who knows? I don't know.
How can it not? I mean, I'm afraid this story might stick with him for
Rondo.
For a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, for Rondo.
Well.
He's going to regret
No,
that
but now,
one.
but people coming out, like Big Baby coming out against him, Rondo
Against Chris
You know,
Paul.
are more people.
All of a sudden, he's in the
true.
spotlight.
But also,
Still
this isn't the Real Housewives. If you're going to say it, say it. Like, yo, why is he a bad teammate?
Own
let's
it.
get into it.
All right, James, thank you. Good stuff today. All right, I'm going from spitting to crying in a
Yep,
game.
you
I
are.
haven't done that before. Did Derek Carr actually cry during his game? We'll discuss next.
No mercy.
While things are going from bad to worse for the 1-5 Raiders, the relationship between Derek Carr and his teammates has reportedly become fractured after it appeared Carr was crying after being sacked and injuring his arm in a game against Seattle a couple weeks ago. Carr denied crying on Twitter yesterday, saying, quote, "On the ground, I yelled, 'Get me up.' Then I got to the sideline, yelled again, not one tear. There is the truth. People will click on it because it sounds crazy." We are joined once again by Michael Rappaport, and we welcome Fox NFL analyst Mark Schlereth. So we got crying, potentially. I'm going to start with you,
Yeah.
Skip. Has Carr lost the locker room?
Look, I don't know for a fact because I don't live there. I don't cover that team. But the first thing I'm pretty sure I'm right on, I don't believe Derek Carr cried like a little baby because he couldn't stand the pain of getting hit once again. His brother tweeted the litany of injuries he suffered and played through. Mark Schlereth played through a whole lot of injuries. What are we up to in surgeries now?
29.
29 surgeries.
Yeah.
Derek Carr's got like 10 injuries he's had to fight through because, as you know, that's just what's required of your game in that position. And when it comes to losing a locker room, it's already gone. The locker room got lost by John Gruden. He is out on the locker room because he's out on this football team. He is annihilating it from the ground up, and he's going to start over and rebuild it. So it feels like John's also out on Derek Carr. So if he's lost the locker room, his stature's already been undercut by the head coach who has repeatedly criticized him in public. And I'm not trying to protect Derek on that account because he's done some really good things in this league and he's done some not so good things in this league. And it feels like John Gruden would also like to start over at quarterback. So is he on the move pretty soon? Wouldn't surprise me at all. But what locker room is left to lose? So I don't get that part. Your thoughts?
Well, I would say this, and I think those are interesting points. I think anytime you get rid of a Khalil Mack, and I covered the Chicago Bears, and to a man, not only the guys on the team, but the coaching staff has said he has changed the culture of our football team single-handedly. Walked in here and changed the culture. The person that he is, the work ethic that he displays, the way he goes about his business, his professionalism has changed our culture. And I know the reaction of Derek Carr when they traded him. Derek Carr was like, "You have got to be kidding me." Like nobody in the organization understood what was going on. So from a lost the locker room standpoint, yes. Did he cry? I have no idea. I do know this. I've seen guys cry before when they know my season just came to an end.
Yeah.
And there's an emotional aspect to that. I remember a Thursday night game several years ago when Luke Kuechly suffered another concussion and was despondent.
He was.
On the football field.
He cried.
Like he's got so much respect from his teammates and so much respect from the people who cover this league and the people in this league that there's no problem with that emotion. And if you're Derek Carr and you suffered a broken leg a couple of years ago and you thought maybe you just broke your arm, because I've been there where I thought, I just broke my leg or I broke something. Like, did I cry? No. But do you get overwhelmed with emotion when you think to yourself, man, I can't be a part of this anymore? Because I'll tell you one thing. There is, and I've been injured plenty, and I've missed time. There is no worse feeling for me as a football player to feel like a pariah in your own locker room because you're not part of it anymore.
Yep.
And that there's nothing you can do to help anymore. That is a sickening feeling. And when you all of a sudden are on the field and you have that feeling and you're like, oh no, like this is it for me. Man, it's a hard emotional thing to deal with. And if he was going through that, then you know what? That makes him human. It makes him a football player.
I totally agree. I totally agree. I think he should be crying more. I think more Raiders should be crying. When you 27-3 versus Seattle, you should be crying. When your best player gets traded, you should be crying. When you're 1-5, you should be crying. When you're now wide receiver, dropped passes last year, you should be crying. I see no reason. I don't even know why he dignified whoever made this thing up that he was crying or not with a response on Twitter. He's a classy guy. He doesn't even curse, which I don't understand. That's like a foreign alien.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Every time I see your posts on the internet, they're not nice. I mean, they're not airable on Fox, right?
No, I tone it down.
Oh, you do?
For here.
Yeah.
For here. But
be careful.
I'm a trained professional. It's never happened. But as far as Derek Carr is concerned, listen, they were 12-2 when he got hurt and broke his leg. They wound up being 12-4. Everybody was like Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl. I would cry. That's just 2 years ago. John Gruden, whatever he's doing, all the respect. Listen, the Oakland Raiders will never be good again. When and if they become good again, they will be the Las Vegas Raiders. I would be crying about that too. There should be fans crying. Instead of fighting and going nuts out there, they should all be crying. It's over in Oakland as far as the Raiders and the football. So,
here's a crazy thing about Derek Carr playing quarterback in the National Football League. I know they continue to relax the rules, but it's hard, right? It's the ultimate team game. It is hard. So he has an MVP caliber season a couple of years ago.
He did. And
what was his reward for having an MVP caliber season? We dumped his offensive coordinator, Bill Musgrave. Got rid of him. Hey, for whatever reason, I know we're 12-4, and I know he put up MVP numbers. He broke his leg. It's almost like you punish Bill Musgrave for him getting his leg broken. And then All of a sudden, you bring in somebody else. The offense falls into the trash.
Your main wide receivers dropping passes all over the place.
And we're going to put it all on Derek Carr. Like, this guy has had no continuity. The one guy that he developed the continuity with and that he understood and they could read each other's minds on the football field, we got rid of him. Like that was too functional for us, right? We're the Raiders. That's just way too, there's too much continuity there for us. We want, it's almost like, now I always said this when I was playing, and I hate the Raiders with the white hot intensity of 1,000 suns, so don't get me wrong. But when I was playing, we used to go there, and they'd have you'd open up their game day book, and they would have guys listed as Raider Hall of Famers. Ronnie Lott. Well, you played there 2 years. You're a San Francisco. You're a 49er, right? You'd be Jerry Rice. You'd look at that and go, come on, guys, stop it.
But that was Al Davis.
And then you'd walk out and they'd introduce, it would be the Welcome to the Jungle music, or whatever, and they'd have it blaring. And then the PA announcer would come on and say, the only team to win a championship in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and then it would be like, dude, it's the aughts, it's like let's move on a little bit here. So, they've got something that was good with a young quarterback in a position that's the hardest position in the world to play in any professional sport, and that wasn't good enough for you. So let's blow it up. So I don't put it on Derek Carr, I put it on the organization.
So, in the end, I know John Gruden, and I still believe in him. And I think he will turn this around. But to your point, it's going to be in Las Vegas. It's not going to be in Oakland. And I think he took one long look at what he had to work with, and he wasn't all in on Khalil Mack. For whatever reason, I don't think he brings effort every down, every day.
Doing this year.
Okay, so far.
Right.
But I don't think he was in on, now my guy, Amari Cooper. Too many drops, too many games of indifference, where he was just indifference. He's not the classic driven diva receiver. You throw it to me, throw it to me, throw it to me. So he wants to start over, probably at quarterback. And I really like Derek Carr. In that 1 year you talk about, he was 28 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. That was really good. So I've seen a lot of really good in Derek Carr, and I've also seen some head scratching in Derek Carr. So is he that guy? Can he take you to the promised land? I think Gruden's decided no. Oof. And you know what? When you got 10 years to work with,
It's pretty quick cook, though, isn't it?
Well,
pretty good.
10 years. He's not
6
worried.
games.
Enjoy Vegas. I would be crying if I were him too.
Mark, thank you for being here and sharing your take. Will LeBron get win number 1 as a Laker tonight? We'll discuss next.
No mercy.
Time for our final topic of the day. LeBron and the Lakers will be in Phoenix tonight looking for their first win of the season. The Lakers will still be without Brandon Ingram, Rajon Rondo for their roles in Saturday's fight with Houston. Okay, Michael, will LeBron get his first win tonight?
I don't think he will get his first
Really?
win. And it'll be a litmus test to show that he cannot will his team to win. He won't go for one of these 50-pointers. He doesn't have it in him. And they're not. It's going to be trouble in Los Angeles Paradise.
Oh, that would be paradise lost, is what that would be.
It's happening tonight. They're not winning. 0-4.
To your point, Devin Booker's averaging 29 a game. He can just light it up. And T.J. Warren's averaging 20, and DeAndre 8, and the kid is 14 and 10. Trevor Reese is there. He'll be guarding LeBron some. I'm going to go with the King tonight. Close. I say the King finally closes a deal. I'm going to go 130 to 128, high scoring.
Okay.
And the betting public is jumping on the King's back because they opened as a 2.5-point favorite, and it's been bet all the way up to 4.5. But again, Phoenix is no doormat here. They got blown out by the Warriors and the Nuggets. No shame there. But they did beat Dallas by 21 at home. So to your point, this is going to be a battle.
I don't think he has it in him to we're going to win, I'm going to make this happen. I think there'll be real reason to get upset and worried.
If they lose to Phoenix, trust me, it's going to be cataclysmic tomorrow.
I can't wait to see the show tomorrow.
I can't wait to see who's sitting in your chair tomorrow because he won't be happy.
Oh, my goodness. He's going to turn red tomorrow.
You know what? You may have to come in tomorrow also.
I might just be outside the building just to harass
him. You look good
him.
in that scene, Michael. It was good to have you today.
No mercy.
Thanks for listening to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm Jenny Taft. Join us again at the same time tomorrow morning, 9:30 Eastern. See you then.
Fox Sports 1 of 1.